So we are finally back after a week hiatus here and had a little mishap with our cloud storage, as well as the fact that Riley and his wife had their 2-year anniversary. So
yeah, that's correct.
How's that been for you?
Pretty good. Can't really complain.
Yeah, you're young.
Yeah, I know. So I think most people consider it, what is it, the honeymoon phase? It's like the first year.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I guess it just came out of that. So
technically, I think at least what I was told is that, yeah, you kind of have that honeymoon phase. And then I believe they say that like the first 5 to 7 years is like you're still considered newlyweds. So
okay.
My wife and I officially got out of that. So I don't know if that's technically true. That's what I heard a while back. So,
gotcha.
But in either case, on to additional official news. So really nothing too expansive on this item, but if you guys have a specific MSI motherboard, which we'll notate in the link in the description, just be aware because there is a Windows update that is causing it to have the blue screen of death. So there's a couple workarounds for that. You can actually either downgrade the BIOS in your MSI motherboard system, or if you're able to, I believe that they said that the update should automatically uninstall in some way, shape, or form. So it's one or the other, but in my opinion, I've kind of just pressed pause on my updates, especially on my MSI, just to make sure Microsoft gets all those kinks worked out. So, which is kind of funny because they went through so many phases between insider preview, beta preview, and then it just still managed to get out there and have issues with that particular motherboard. So, which you have a MSI, don't you?
I do actually. Yeah, thankfully I haven't had that issue.
Yeah,
so.
A little bit older.
Yeah, it's I think it's like a 2020 MSI, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that was pretty crazy to see that actually start happening around. I think there was actually even a forum that people were writing. I think it was for Windows 11, and people were going nuts over this specific, like, with their own motherboard or whatever. It was pretty wild.
Right. Yeah. More details, like I said, are in that description. So. But on to how you want to expand what you display, we're going to hit on the Samsung Odyssey Neo G9. This is a 57-inch monitor. I'm sure you have probably a good few sentences on this product.
Yes, quite a bit actually. when you showed it to me, I think it was last week. First glance, it didn't seem like a whole lot because I've seen a lot of these different monitors, and you can't really tell the size of it when you're just looking at it. But,
exactly. Yes,
but I actually watched Samsung released a YouTube video
promo.
On it.
Yes.
I saw that and it really changed my perception of it. And now I'm just really enthralled by it. Obviously, I can't afford it, but that's completely insane. Just the back of it.
Yeah,
it's a 57-inch monitor, 8K, 240 hertz. It's ridiculous. So
it's insane. They definitely have quite a few IOs on the back as well. But yeah, $2,500. I just that's pretty crazy. I will admit that they stretched the mark on their promo and really pushed all of the specifications and whatnot. So you probably could easily be sold just by that if you were let your emotions get carried away. But kind of remind me of that. What's that movie? Is it Inception or something like that, where they kind of had like the curved world? I can't remember, but yeah. So we're expecting that in October, and I'm not sure. Do you feel like that price is justified?
I think so. Yeah, I'm along with all those specs and the actual display size. I'd say it's worth it for what you're getting out of it. I think it makes sense, and even the backlighting and the multiple ports that you can connect with it. Could it be lower? Yes, but I'm not upset with the price right now. It seems reasonable, I think, to say the least.
Yeah. I can agree with that as well. You got a peak brightness of 1,000 nits. It's VESA Display HDR 1000 certified. So
yeah, I
mean, it's got a lot going for it. Obviously, we don't have any specific input on it because, like we said, it's not released yet here in the States. But yeah, like you said, they do have a lot of variety when it comes to their monitors, different sizes, different specifications. I mean, when you look on their website and you look at the entire ARC series for their monitors, it's pick and choose. It's almost like buying a Jeep. You can just customize it as much as you want.
Absolutely.
So Yeah, it's got a lot on the. So you got DisplayPort 2.0. It's got 3 HDMI 2.1 ports. There's a USB hub included, and then you also have it supports AMD FreeSync Premium Pro. So I don't know. I'm excited about it. I don't think I'll be reviewing it. That's a bit of a stretch for me, but
Yeah.
Nevertheless, we felt like that was worth bringing up. And I kind of, the question I kind of wanted to highlight there was, how wide is too wide? I mean, I don't know. Is it, can you really get too wide on, I've seen some of these gaming setups on TikTok and Facebook Reels and such. And they get pretty immersive. I saw this one where he was like, in a racing game, and like he was actually on a platform and all the gears and everything, it would actually vibrate based on the gear shifts. And so, I mean, I'm sure there's definitely a market for this, but I'm just like, man, I have a Samsung monitor and I think it's like 32 inches. So 57 is outrageous. So
yeah, that's just under
almost a double the size.
Double, yeah. I think it's hard to tell because for what people utilize certain displays for, they require that sort of work, especially if you do multiple things at once. If you're multitasking, larger screens are exceptional when it comes to that. Or if you're doing immersive gaming, I feel like we might be coming to a point where displays are getting a bit outrageously big. However, I feel like in the next few years, I don't see it being too much of a hassle. But I think after that point, like if you get to like 80-inch, which I think that's the size of Samsung's new 8K TV, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they get pretty crazy in size.
It's pretty wild, yeah.
And this is also curved, by the way, just in case you were questioning that. It is curved.
Yeah, it is.
Like, 1,000 radius curvature on it. So, but yeah, 57, I would literally have to move my monitor stand over almost to the middle of my desk. I have a pretty decent sized desk in my office, and I'd have to move it over to prevent it from hitting the hutch cupboard on my right side. So it's like pretty crazy where we're getting here. But in any case, we'll move on to audio, and you had some interesting news about the AirPods Max, which is not necessarily new, but take it away.
Yeah, so there's this issue, and I wasn't aware of this, that the AirPods Max have had condensation basically being built up underneath the earmuffs. And if you guys are aware of the fact that these muffs are magnetic and they can come off really easily on and off, and that's how you're able to customize them actually really well.
Yeah.
The problem that many have seen is when they're working out, even when someone was, I think, streaming for like quite a few hours straight, there was literally condensation or even sometimes sweat, which is gross, built in the muffs. And it's come to the point where I think a few years ago, California actually attempted to sue Apple. They didn't win. And I think they're back at it again, saying that, they basically said, quote, a latent and material defect causes condensation to accumulate inside the ear cups of the AirPods Max, often after only an hour or several hours of normal use. And Apple's lawyers basically came back at them and said, and I disagree with this because obviously they're just not wanting to pay this much money. But basically they're saying, well, that happens with every headphone. It's just this one is more noticeable because of the magnetic ones.
Right.
But you have to understand, these are going into the drivers themselves, and it's caused people to not be able to hear the audio. The latency has shifted,
or even random restarts, from what I understand.
Or random restarts, stuff like that. And it's getting to the point where people are just not able to use their headphones. One guy actually has had to replace them 3 times. I think I read in the comments on here.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a pretty big issue. And I, especially like if you have sweat in there, like I said, that's disgusting. If you weren't even aware of that and it just is stuck in there and it's well, gross,
I mean, that part I get. I mean, I'm sure there's been condensation or sweat or whatever, that's in my earmuffs on my WXM4s. But it seems like it's brought to a higher level, kind of like what the lawyers are saying. But obviously they're kind of approaching it as, oh, this is not as big as you guys are making it out to be. And then they throw in that whole, like, these headphones aren't waterproof or water resistant. And yeah, that's true, but this has kind of become an issue. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't heard any resolution earlier than where we are right now, because this is now entering what are 2 years? Is that where we're at with the AirPods Max? So, or close to
I
it?
believe so. Yeah, I thought 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy to think about that. I'm not sure if you have any more details on it, but
Not really necessary details, but the way I feel about it is exactly how someone commented down below in the article. They said, quote, "You're sweating it wrong, wink face." Or, obviously, owners are at fault here if they adapted their, and this is them speaking in the mind of Apple, obviously owners are at fault here. If they adapted their body temp to match the environmental temps around them, there is no condensation. Consistently holding body temp at about 90.6 is the actual problem. Cold-blooded lizards have no such issue. Ever heard the iguanas complain about this? Turtles, toads, crocs, their temps rise and fall with their surroundings. It's these dang warm-blooded bipeds that spoil everything. Bipeds both cause this problem and then dare to complain about it. Apple would be better off.
wow, that's sarcasm to the next level. I don't even think Chandler could match that on Friends.
Yeah, person was upset because, I mean, I agree with them to an extent. It's like Apple just says, like, it's not our fault. It's the user's fault. You're not supposed to be wearing these headphones for 8 hours while you're working out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't even sound like they're working out in some cases. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, for the most part.
What's ironic is that this goes on to be like one of the most expensive over-the-ear headphones when it comes to, mainstream products. So there's that added aspect to it as well. So I'm just like, this is
Yeah.
You could come at it from different angles and just there's just still some logic to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have to pay out with this lawsuit. So
yeah, for sure.
In either case, we'll move on to a little news from X. And I don't know, this one definitely has some controversy because I'm kind of okay with it. And then the other side, I'm a little annoyed. Basically, Elon Musk is moving on to how X appears, when it comes to your feed. And he's taking away headlines and basically just allowing the links and the actual image to appear.
Yeah.
He's doing this in the namesake of hopefully reducing clickbait as well as giving you a cleaner interface and more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So I'll give one side of it. I do agree. I think it would look a little bit more neat and just smooth as you're just going through all of what's coming up.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm going to give it to you on maybe what your negatives would be on this.
Well, I think it'd be similar to how you probably view it. You lose what the actual context of the article is. Like if I just showed you a picture of a Nintendo Switch.
Right.
And I didn't give you, there was no, if I even I could make a comment about it on the top and then tweet it or exit, whatever. But if there was literally no heading, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the other side to it too, is like I can see one way of it because like as long as you can see the link, that's normally what I pay attention to. I will look at the URL to see, okay, what I'm actually clicking on. And it normally doesn't take me more than like maybe 3 or 5 seconds, 3 or 5 seconds to actually see this. So I'm like, okay, this is a good link to click on. The headline, like you were saying, I feel like it kind of helps with that because you can kind of understand it and be like, okay, this would work. If you just show the image, I feel like that would be just as bad because you could, in theory, allow an image to be the header and it would be something completely different to what the article is and thereby actually being just as bad as other clickbait. So I don't know. It's kind of one or the other. So it'd be hard to say.
You could argue, like I said, about making that, when you tweet it, you put your own information in. You could argue, well, someone could just put that information in, so you really don't need the heading. That's not the point.
True.
The point we've always had is you have links, and those links already have headings within them. Even when you send them on social media, like on Discord, we've seen it on Messenger, it'll literally give you the image and the heading when you put the link in because Google knows exactly where that is in the image associated with that. So, and the heading. So it's like, it is half and half because I see the aesthetic of it. I understand why you'd want to make that smooth and flow well, but I feel like you're running into some problems here, Musk.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. He keeps on making, I don't know. This is a perfect example. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I felt like it was fine the way it was. I don't think you really had to mess with it. So I don't know. It's something worth bringing up just because, I don't know, as you as the listener, do you really think that this is something that makes it more advantageous when it comes to browsing through X? That's really up to the user. And I don't feel like the CEO should be messing with that or the owner.
Yeah, no. I think just to kind of end it here, I think if Elon put an option, a setting, if you want to turn off headings somehow, although I think that would be great. Then yeah, sure. I'm totally down with that. There's some people that just don't want to see the heading, be surprised or, just have a little more nicer flow to it. Sure, go ahead. But if you just immediately have that forced on people, then that becomes an issue because I think most people are want the heading.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
Lamborghini, and I don't even think we've actually mentioned this company ever.
We mentioned, I think it was a CEO or something like that.
That's right.
Maybe it was like a design engineer or something for the Apple car. That was part of that crew.
Yes.
So that's the only time I believe we mentioned Lamborghini on this show, and that was actually on a newscast episode, not debatable. So,
right. Well, finally, it seems that Lamborghini is releasing an EV. And this will be released in 2028, by the way. So if you're listening to this and you have a Lambo and you've been wanting to get one and on an EV, you're going to have to wait still a few more years. But there's a lot to go through. So I'll just kind of go through the main interesting, really cool things. This one has 1,341 horsepower. Like there's your first big thing. It's a 4-seater, which is incredible for a Lamborghini. That's like got 4 rich people, I think is how they put it in this article. Yeah. These are concept art. So when I say this, I'm seeing the images for the concept art. So this is not final. But it seems that there's like all leather seats. You have 2 screens on left and right dashboard for the passenger and the driver. The entire inside just looks sick. It looks so futuristic. And even the exterior matches that. It's like a Batmobile. It really just goes beyond how you normally think of it. I can see Batmobile. I can see a little bit of Corvette. I actually surprisingly see a little bit of the Tesla Cybertruck. Yes. Depending on what angle you're at. Yeah, that's true for sure.
I'll actually say this real quick here. The interior, based on the concept photos or rendered photos, it reminds me of something from Star Trek. The seating, and I'll probably say specifically Next Generation. That's kind of where I'm thinking here. Very like Ryan was saying, futuristic, but it's definitely has some sort of Star Trek influence on this, whether that was intentional or not. I just had to say that.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. There's also one other thing that I wanted to mention. There's this customizable drive mode known as Lamborghini Dinamica Voicla Integrata. I probably really butchered that, so I apologize for any Italians, even though actually both JD and I are part Italian. Yes. Or it's otherwise known as the L Dive. And this basically, it packs the car with more actuators, sensors. The driving dynamics can be more monitored, more fine-tuned, and provide the driver with more feedback. That was kind of just a quote from the actual site there.
Which you can actually make the adjustments while you're driving, which is pretty cool. Right,
yes, you can. And they've kind of coined this as the Ultra GT, which rightly so. We'll obviously put the links to the images down below, and you'll see just how amazing this thing is. It's beautiful.
Depending on your perspective.
300,000 is the likely cost, and again, it's going to be released in 2028. So hopefully we'll get some more actual photos of this in the future. Over it seems like
I didn't see any specs from various articles as far as like speed or anything like that, but I imagine it's going to be fairly quick considering that's got that much horsepower and it's an EV. So I don't know if we're talking like Lucid Air Sapphire Edition here or what. So I'm sure that'll be released later on, at least from what we've seen so far. But it's pretty cool. It's one of those things where I questioned putting it on the show. Riley pulled it up and he saw it after I did about a week later, and so we decided to keep it on. The only reason why I didn't really want to showcase this is just because, this really doesn't hit the mainstream. So,
no, it doesn't.
But it's worth noting in some way, shape, or form, depending on how you're looking at it. So it's coming down the line. Got 5 years, so you'll likely forget about this within the next month. Yeah. So
For sure.
But kicking it along right back to Microsoft. So I'm kind of curious, Riley, they had to adjust how this entire, or I guess they should say restructure how this deal and merger was going to take place with Activision. And basically, when and if the deal goes through, they would have to sell off the cloud gaming aspects of Activision to Ubisoft. And I feel like this is probably the right approach to it. I'm not sure if maybe you disagree with that. I was kind of wondering if maybe this was fair or maybe if the CMA went too far. It's hard to say. I feel like this is fair.
Yeah, I think logically, if you have a company that gives off one of its, what would you say, categories or parts of itself to another company, you have no need for that cloud anymore. Because what are you going to do with it if it's owned by you? I mean, unless if there was an easy way to do this, you could sort of have a co-parent or whatever that basically also had control over the cloud. So that way, maybe because I can understand how users would feel uneasy about this. So maybe a better way of doing it is for both companies to kind of have ownership over the cloud. That might complicate things. But to me, yeah, I agree with you. This isn't actually a huge issue. There'll probably be a lot of people that disagree with us, but no, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah. And so they're actually going to, the closing date for all this has been extended because it was originally, I think, what was it, August 18th was the closing date, or somewhere around there. Now it's been extended to October 18th, I believe is the date that they're pushing for. And that's when we should hear from the CMA somewhere between now and then, as far as whether this is going to be approved. Outside of that, there's really not too much to go on. This would be for the next 15 years. So when they actually sell those rights over to Ubisoft, that would guarantee 15 years of cloud gaming for them.
Yeah.
Or I should say the rights of that for them. So yeah, I don't really have too much others to say about this. I feel like this is the right move, or at least it's a step in the right direction for how we're seeing this merger evolve. I was kind of nervous about this because I felt like Microsoft was getting too much power because Activision is such a critical player when it comes to gaming development. So
it is.
But outside of that, I don't really have any complaints. I feel like if this step wasn't taken, I still would probably be against it. This one makes it a little bit more easy for me to accept and kind of go from there. So, but outside of that, we will actually go back to some automobile news. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit on the cheaper side, if you will, although still expensive for us.
Yeah.
Compared to a Lamborghini, Tesla has updated their app to now utilize Siri for unlocking or locking the car, for turning on air conditioning. It's not a whole lot, but we just did want to let you guys know about that specific thing. If you were curious, it's now happening, and hopefully we see a lot more additions to Siri being able to do even more things. That would actually be incredible. And maybe not even just Siri, maybe other voice assistants. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it was actually pretty nice to have that. The fact that they're kind of upgrading that and allowing, the shortcuts to be pushed through via Siri. The irony that I will stick with here, and it is sourced from the article, so I can't deny that part. But it is funny how they're allowing the shortcuts of communication with Siri to kind of help with the interactions on your car. And yet it's still not like an Apple CarPlay supported vehicle. So that was the part that I was like, yeah, that's still got to be a bummer. But I mean, I don't really think from all the reviews that I've seen and how the software has evolved, I really don't think that the, Tesla interface is all that bad. So I can't necessarily complain.
No, I've seen reviews from people saying that they're okay with it not having Apple Car.
Yeah.
Would it be better? Yes. The integration with that and Android Auto would be exceptional. But I feel like this might be one exception where it's like this car is appropriate in its own way of having its own infotainment software.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think the other ones we've talked about in the past as well was Rivian. They have their own software too. But yeah, so in case you guys were curious about that, it is via the Apple Shortcuts app. So I believe it's already out. So the actual app update is already out. Is that correct, Riley?
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
So not that we own a Tesla or anything like that, so we really couldn't test this out firsthand. But yeah, something to keep an eye on if you guys do own one and kind of want to have a little more customization when it comes to Siri. So, Project Q. We're at that point.
Yep.
For the guys who don't know, we'll kind of just do a quick recap here. So Sony had Project Q, and that was a few months back, I believe. And that was a whole entire handheld device. And we talked about it, and we talked about the potential price of it and the integration and how it works. Now it actually has a model name. It's called the Portal, PlayStation Portal. We'll just start with the looks and usage. Do you think this is something that if you did have a PS5, would you use it?
Not all the time.
Okay.
But, if I have some downtime and I'm upstairs, well, I don't have a house really technically right now. If I had an upstairs, I would use it, but I feel like it wouldn't be something because I already have the PS5 and I can't use it without the device.
Yes.
I feel like I would use it a good amount, but not as much as the actual console. So
that would kind of elicit a question of, do you feel like this would actually be worth buying? Okay. Just to clarify, the pricing is $199, so $200.
Right.
So do you feel like this is worth buying?
See, that's a tough one because I think that like on its own, it's really cool. And if this wasn't part of having to have a PS5, that'd be actually really great too. Obviously, the price would be much bigger. But if you're a person that really wants a mobile console, and when I say mobile, I mean inside your house mobile, and you kind of want to have that with you the whole time, yeah, I would say so. But it just doesn't seem there's any real good reason for it. Especially when it doesn't have Bluetooth, and there's a slight exception at which JD's going to get to here in a moment.
Yes.
But it doesn't have any Bluetooth features, and it's like,
that.
well, then what's the point? I mean, it looks great. I love the design. I will say that.
Yes. It's a Nintendo Switch with a DualSense.
Yeah, it is, exactly. I've always been an X controller. I've always been an Xbox controller fan myself, but I've always loved the design of the PS.
Absolutely.
Series lately. It's been pretty
white design, blue trim.
Beautiful.
It looks really good. Yes. So with that, so you can't play locally. There's nothing on board of the device. So as we've already indicated, you have to have a PS5 for this to work. You have to have at least a minimum of 5 megabits per second download speed to use this. I believe Sony recommends 50 megabits per second. So there's that aspect to it. I just feel like $200 for this, it doesn't register in my mind. I don't get it.
No.
Like you said, maybe there's like a 50-50 where, okay, I could kind of see this working, but I'm like dropping down to like 40, 60, 30, 70 here. I don't really, I myself would not buy it. That's just me in my scenario. So like I have an Xbox and I do use cloud gaming. So I'll pull out my iPad, pull out the Xbox app, hook up my Xbox controller to my iPad and do some cloud gaming. So like if I don't want to be in the living room or they're using the TV or whatever, I can hop on the iPad and start doing some gaming. Mm-hmm. And so that's the whole point. Is like if you already have devices that can kind of give you that capability, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And the other aspect to that is you're going to be limited to that. So with my iPad, I can use it for various purposes.
Right.
But with this, it's just strictly PS5 and that's it. There's no extra gaming to it. There's no, bells and whistles. Or like Riley said, there's no Bluetooth, but you do have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, which thank goodness they've threw that in.
Yeah. Not in a whole lot of phones, but this PS Portal, yeah.
Yeah, if you want a headphone jack, then get this. So
get this. Yes.
It's got 60 frames per second, 1080p. It's an LCD screen. So I don't know. I feel like this was a major missed opportunity by PlayStation. So I'm sure you probably have some more thoughts to this.
Yeah, real quick, I actually did just think of something. Because I was thinking, like, I feel that this would have been better if it came with the PS5 and was built in and you could take it out. Kind of like another console that we know as the Switch. Then I realized, well, I think maybe Sony didn't want to follow suit and didn't want to replicate something that's already been done. Which I get. Originality is something that allows a company to thrive because it's something that not many people see nowadays.
Right.
So if that was their point of going to be like, we're not going to do the exact same thing as Nintendo does, we're going to kind of go off our own. Great. But the thing about the Switch that works so well is that it literally switches, right, between being a console on its own for you to be able to use it wherever you go. And
it's true mobility.
Exactly. And I also think that maybe this was just a marketing thing, just so that way they could make a lot more money on it, because you have to have a PS5 to use this. So
I mean, it's just that simple. And I just don't see how they could possibly think that this would be advantageous in some way, shape, or form. So that kind of transitions into the corresponding product, which is the headphones that they came out with. And I'm not sure if I'm missing something, but this is kind of a turnoff for me. I think the one thing I feel like Sony excels at is design, and I feel like the design looks really good.
Yeah.
But to be able to use wireless earbuds with the Portal, since there's no Bluetooth, you have to buy these earbuds.
Okay, yeah, no, I see
Pulse
what you're
Explorer.
saying.
So that's really where it turned me off, because I'm like, well, these cost $200 as well. So when it's all said and done, you could technically have pretty much another console with the pricing. That's the part where it really turns me off. The headphones themselves, they look really good. I like them. You can actually hook them up to, I think the way they explained it, you can actually hook them up to your smartphone and then also have them linked to the console. So you can actually like answer a phone call or whatever and it still be hooked up. And I just feel like that process was thought through pretty well. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know why in the world they had to go, it almost feels like a game. You have to go through so many hoops to kind of achieve what they're selling.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, you will have spent $900 for all of this, assuming you bought your PS5 new. And it's like, man, I'm sorry. That's just not, like I said at the beginning of this, if you really want this specific handheld device that goes with your PS5, there's no other option for you, then yeah, by all means do it. But again, if you want those headphones that goes, it's just a downstream. It just falls flat on its side. And whereas like a Nintendo Switch, sure, it's not like super high in, graphics or performance or anything, which hopefully they're going to do that with the Switch 2. But it does so much more and for a lot less of a price than what you normally have to spend for all of this. So,
right. Which I think the part that you were talking about, because you did kind of seem surprised that I didn't like these buds, and that it was specifically for that downside. It does have like lossless audio quality, low latency performance. So there's some positive to this. And I think they had a good idea in mind. But when you kind of put it all into one big picture, you almost feel like you're getting gypped. At least that's how I feel. Now, maybe for other PS5 enthusiasts, this is like your dream come true. And if it is, then maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. But
yeah, one last thing I'll say about this. The headphones, I mean, if you looked at them, you tell immediately, like, that almost looks like a little PS5, just for headphones. And they open a really cool way.
Yeah.
Like, if these were just sold on their own for a day-to-day use for a user, I would buy them. Not even just because for the audio experience, just because they look really good.
They do look really good. Yep. Which in theory, you could actually test these out and kind of see how they, feel and look and sound, because you can hook them up to your phone.
Right.
And this is not really the main question that I would ask throughout this whole entire topic here. But it does make me curious. I'm like, so I wonder how good, maybe not as great, but how good they are in comparison to the WFXM5s.
Yeah, right.
Because those are pretty much the front runner when it comes to true wireless, higher quality experience that you have, because I've heard a lot of people say that they do compete with the AirPods Pro 2 very well. Matter of fact, some have said that it is the prime product to buy when it comes to true wireless buds. So that was kind of my thought to it, and it was prompted by the article because they did mention that if you want better audio, you probably would want to stick with those. But
correct,
with $200, I don't know. I feel like you should be getting some pretty good quality audio.
Yeah, I think so too. Or it could be just the brand name. I mean, that would be annoying to say the least, but
that would be annoying.
it seems, I don't feel like that'd be a Sony move though. Although maybe
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about Sony's past with technology, but just from face value, it seems like that's.
The clarification, though, as far as the portal goes, yes, it's going to be $200. It's made available on pre-order in select countries, and then additional countries will come into play on September 29th. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And so we will move on to some of our closing topics.
Yes, so the La Rose Noir Drop Tail. That is the name of the next Rolls Royce that's being made, and this is actually the world's most expensive car. I want you to go ahead and guess how much this thing is, actually, because I'm curious.
I'm trying to remember here because I'm thinking about what the most expensive car is, and that would be insane.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say 20 million. How much is it?
Okay. It's 32 million.
32 million. Okay.
Wow. Yes, and this is a 5.3 meter long car, which features a 6.75 liter twin turbo V12 engine and a unique exterior paint developed through 150 iterations. I'll just say this. Mom would love this car.
Yes, for probably only one reason though.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting to.
As I'm looking at some of the side profiles here, and I'm not a fan of it. But
Mom,
sure
if you had $32 million, would you buy this just for the interior design?
Do they have the specs on the horsepower?
Doesn't say. I don't think the horsepower. It does. So it says it can do a sub 5.0 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour sprints. Yeah, I know. Along with a top speed of over 250 kilometers per hour. A lot of people are saying like, oh, wow, that's just a Dodge Charger, but with just, 2 seats and then
that is thank you. Yes, I was thinking there's something about it that I've seen. It's either a Dodge Charger or like a Chrysler 300. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, the interior looks in some ways, based on the angles that I'm seeing, kind of ugly.
Yes.
For a $32 million vehicle, I don't really feel like ugly should ever be in the conversation, but
no.
In my opinion, it is.
Yes.
So, I mean, I was just saying, like, the exterior is okay. I don't know. I guess this is really more of one of those statement purchases. Like, if you see someone driving down the road in one of these, then they've got money to burn. So that's about all I see here. Yeah, it's got huge twin turbo engine, V12. Outside of that, I'm just like, why else would you buy it other than to say that I'm rich? So,
right.
But, continue.
Yeah. One other quick thing to mention with this: there are only 4 of these made, and it took 5 years to make.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So you probably won't be seeing anyone driving in this
Nope.
around us, especially in North Carolina. That's probably the most.
This would be either a
areas.
NYC or a Cali area. Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Cali for sure, and definitely New York. But I think like the most bougie place we've got is like Raleigh. And
which says a lot on our state.
It does, because we're a state that's like trucks and beer
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. But
we see more 18-wheelers than we do sedans sometimes, is what it feels like.
So yeah, 32 million for these cars being made. Again, that's the La Rose Noir Drop Tail, and I actually kind of disagree with you slightly in tier. I do agree that it should not look like that for being 32 million. But as a person who normally, I've looked at a lot of cars recently, as JD can attest to. I've seen interiors of cars. It looks very surreal look to it. And maybe you disagree with that. But I like it.
Okay.
I don't love it. I do agree with you that the aesthetic is weird, but I also find it slightly mesmerizing in a way. Like the red on everything it's almost eye-catching, not in a amazing way, but not in a bad way either.
Which means that in the end, if you are in the same perspective, and if you are somebody that has $32 million to burn and you're listening to our channel, please call us. We'd love to have you sponsor us. on the actual main point, though,
Yes,
if
please.
you do have that much money to burn and you're in that 50-50 spot, you're not going to buy this car.
Right. You're probably going to go.
Because I don't really feel like you should be spending that much money on this and then kind of be torn about the interior. The exterior, like I said, I don't know. I kind of like the sides. I feel like the rims are really what's catching me. I'm like, I don't know if I like those rims.
The look seems way too cheap for it to be like that for 32.
Yeah, I expect something a little bit different for at least a Rolls Royce.
A lot more unique. Yeah.
What was what'd you say the top speed was? 200 and something?
250 kilometers per hour.
Okay, so 155. All right. And then you said it's a sub 5 second for 0 to 62 miles per hour. So
correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's
definitely
kind of what
not
I would
the
expect
best.
because Rolls-Royce isn't like the one that's about performance necessarily. It is more about the bougie exterior statement, look at me, versus like I was saying, a Lucid Air, or even just for the purists out there, like a Porsche 911. That's kind of where I like to settle around. This is not, I've never been a fan of Rolls-Royce. Obviously, they have their statement cars, their, legacy cars, the ones that they've been famous for in the past. But yeah, and I know this is not you at all either, but it's more of one of those, this is the most expensive one they make. So
yeah,
I can see why there's only 4 of them.
Yeah, it's nothing like a Bentley.
I have been seeing, this is hilarious.
Did you
I've been
see that?
seeing countless replicas of the original on Facebook.
Dude, it's hilarious.
I saw the one for a John Deere. I've seen
Hyundai,
the one for
GMC,
I think Chevy, if I'm not mistaken.
Ford,
yeah, it is
all
absolutely
of them.
hilarious.
Everybody
Oh, my
just
word.
dumping on this girl, like
yes,
it's because she's
and honestly, it's within reason.
yes,
It
I
is.
agree.
I mean, I'm just like, okay, I don't really give a crap about a Bentley, and you're showing off things that are like, really? That's kind of what the whole entire.
She taps a glass at the end, like Bentley. Like I can afford a glass. So what do you mean?
Oh my
God.
word! Yeah. Or the rims.
Or the rims.
Yeah.
What's your favorite one so far? I just gotta know.
Let me see. Oh, I think the one that I actually did like the best was, I can't remember if he said it was a Humvee. It was a military man.
Yes,
showing off
the German
Humvee or something like that.
The German guy. Or no, it wasn't a German guy.
Maybe I don't know if it was.
It was a
I think it was
long
American.
name. The car that the thing he was talking about is spoken like
I
a
thought it was
language
like a
that sounded
Humvee
like a
or something like
Schmortenvergen or something like that.
Oh, then you're probably thinking of a different one then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my favorite, although I haven't seen all of them, is the Toyota one. the Asian dude.
Oh, I haven't seen that one
Toyota.
yet. See, there's so many to it. I have not seen them all. So
Oh yeah,
I'm sure
there's
countless other
so
ones that
many
are
of
still
these.
out there, so.
Anyway, yeah, that's Bentley. We're on Rolls Royce. Just tap the
there you go.
hubcaps and then
I'd actually love to hear what she has to say about this one.
Rolls Royce. Just taps the
Oh, my
glass.
word.
There's not even is there a cup holder in this?
For 32 million, there better be at least
a
one.
cup
So.
holder. Anyway, what's your blind topic, man?
My blind topic is also a vehicle, but it's a little bit
Wow.
more mainstream. Yeah, so
is the
we
vehicle
definitely
episode.
hit the vehicles on debatable just because it's fun and we kind of get to take a
Clearly,
look
it's
at what's coming
relevant
down the line.
somehow.
It's not really. I don't even think it's controversial. Take a look. So this is the 2024 Kia EV9, and it's basically an electrified Telluride. It has its Kia design language, that's for darn sure. It's got quite a few different trims to it, so you can get some that have a base of, I think it was 223 mile range.
Uh-huh.
And then it goes all the way up to 300, which I know I said all the way as if that's supposed to be really high, 300, but that is kind of middle of the road. I know I think Toyota is trying to shoot for 500 or 600, maybe 700 mile range based on their newsroom, but that's for another episode. But needless to say, for a 3-row EV, you can get this and it'll actually give you either a sub or right at a 5-second 0 to 60 speed.
Dang, okay.
In some ways, you should kind of expect that from an EV, but this is a pretty big EV.
Two things. Number one, am I mistaken in saying that there's a lot of buttons on that wheel? On the steering wheel?
Possibly. I don't think it's too much. Based on what I've seen with other vehicles, I don't think it's too much. I don't like the way the buttons look. You know what it reminds me of? If you look at that, it almost reminds me of a vintage PlayStation controller, the old wired ones.
Yeah, sort of. I can see that.
Yeah, they're a little bit, I guess I don't remember them being as round as they actually are, so not necessarily, but it kind of, for some reason, it did remind me of that. I don't know why. I don't like the gloss, the piano gloss on the actual steering wheel either, because it just kind of looks a little cheap to me. That's just me, but that's how I feel.
There's also one other thing.
Yeah.
It looks like a Kia Soul Cross Cybertruck.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the front of the pictures,
I see the Kia Soul.
You see the front.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see. The wheels actually kind of remind me of something Tesla would try to do. I mean, obviously you can see there's a lot of buttons on the side of that chair, and it does have its reclining feature. It also has the leg extender.
Yep.
Or thigh extender, I should say, is what that's technically called. But as far as the fact that they're trying to make this as practical as possible, the Telluride is one of the most popular SUVs out there, although it's not the fastest selling, which I actually saw that recently. The Grand Highlander from Toyota is actually killing it, which does not surprise me, because when you mix a stereotypically reliable car manufacturer like Toyota, and then you give it a lot of practicality and interior space that was kind of missing from the regular Highlander.
Yeah.
I would not, it doesn't surprise me that they're killing it. But as far as this is considered, I think the front design, when you're looking straight ahead on it, you can kind of see it within the first one on the left. That design actually looks pretty cool. The way they kind of integrated some of those LED lights and kind of faded it into the middle. I believe they still have a little bit of what Kia calls the tiger nose. You can barely see it, but it's there. But it's got decent range. It's got some decent horsepower. I'm interested to see how well this vehicle does, and I'm sure it will probably help to cultivate more competition in this market for 2-3-row SUVs for, your typical family hauler. Obviously, the Cadillac Lyriq is something that not every family is going to go out and buy because it's way outside of the federal tax credit. So
absolutely,
but this one does qualify. So just keep an eye on that. And if we do have any other quick news about this vehicle, we'll be sure to let you guys know. And outside of that, yeah, I'm kind of curious, would you actually consider buying something like this if you had a big family and based on the looks? Nothing else.
Based on the looks, I'm actually going to surprisingly say no.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong.
Too futuristic or just too not there?
Neither. It seems like, if you're just looking at the interior, it seems like a truck. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It seems too rigid. Like there's no flow, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so you're talking like the fact that you feel like there's too many straight lines or something like that? There's no...
Kind of. If this is a 2024 model, you'd expect it to be a lot more curvatured and, smooth in design, which there are parts of this car that do have that. And I'm not, again, this is a new model and it looks great. But if we're talking like, if there's other options for EVs, and I think I would choose them over this one.
Okay. I can understand where you're kind of coming from with that.
Yeah. And that's kind of just my taste, based around what other EVs I've seen, how they look.
I feel like it's a trend when it comes to especially EVs. They have this tendency to be more futuristic than they should be.
Yeah, I would agree.
It kind of leaves you to a point where it feels cool, but it might not feel as practical or make you feel as at home as your typical internal combustion engine vehicles do. So,
I feel like you have to kind of to make the EV stand out from the others, because that's how Tesla did it. That one looks futuristic.
There's some truth to it, yes. I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, for it to kind of be defined and be set apart from normal combustion engine, I think you kind of have to do that. Now, I agree with you in the sense that, like, there are many that do it way too much, and it's just extra. But I do feel like you do need to make it futuristic because it is like an EV, and it has to have that type of aesthetic to it it kind of makes sense, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I do agree with you on that. And the way I would put it is those EVs make you feel like you're in some amazing mansion and you don't want to touch anything and you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there.
That's kind of
true.
what I feel. Okay. And if you're listening, you're like, I don't really get what you're saying, JD. Where are you coming from with that? That's fine. That's how I feel though. And I feel like it would be great if you could actually make EVs that are more just the typical family hauler. Make some changes, make it look appealing and like there's something that draws your attention, wants you to go to the EV route. But with that said, we will go ahead and close out this week's episode. We do, again, apologize for missing our last newscast and last debatable as well. But like we said, we did have a massive monitor that we had on our showcase. 57 inches, just outrageous. Yep. But we will catch you guys in the next one. This is JD and Riley signing off.
Peace out.